Hello and welcome to me completing Pokedexes instead of studying for my midterms. A while back, I started my journey through the Pokemon games by completing the Pokedex in Pokemon Yellow. It was a long grind, spanning multiple months, but in the end I got it done and moved through the regions. Gen 3, however, decided to shake up the release formula by throwing remakes into the mix. There wasn't enough room in Hoenn to fit every Pokemon, and you couldn't connect the Gen 2 and 3 games together at all. Their solution was to remake Generation 1 in the new engine, bring over the remaining Pokemon, and reimagine the games in a modern for the time light. This brings me to the question of today. How different is completing this Pokedex compared to the original Gen 1 games? Is it easier, harder, mostly the same, or is it wildly different? Let's start a new game and find out. I pick my gender and name both myself and my rival, then go out on my Pokemon journey. Unfortunately, Oak still fears that I'll be mauled to death by Rattata, so I can't go out yet and first have to pick a starter. I pick Squirtle and fight Blue, in which I win because I'm just that good. I get the parcel in Viridian, deliver it to Oak, and get the Pokedex. On Route 1, I catch Pidgey and Rattata, then I move west of Viridian to get Mankey and Spearow. In Viridian Forest, I caught Metapod, Weedle, Caterpie, Pikachu, and Kakuna. I beat Brock no problem and got the Boulder Badge. On the way to Route 3, I got the Running Shoes, and I also evolved Squirtle to Wartortle on the route. On Route 3, I caught Nidoran Female, Jigglypuff, and another Nidoran Female for later. Mount Moon has a Zubat, which sucks in this game because my boy Crobat doesn't exist here, Paris, Geodude, and Clefairy. I also evolved Nidoran to Nidorina, and then immediately into Nidoqueen and Clefairy into Clefable using the 2 Moonstones I got here, making them actually competent team members. It feels kinda broken to be able to have Nidoking or Nidoqueen this early in the game, but hey, I'll take the advantage if the opportunity arises. Upon leaving Mount Moon, I caught Sandshrew on Route 4. I beat Blue and Cerulean, went through Nugget Bridge, and beat all the guys. On Route 24, we had to deal with Abra, who's a big pain in the ass as we don't have Great Balls yet, and it teleports after 1 turn. I also caught Bellsprout. After getting tickets from Bill, I evolved Abra into Kadabra and then beat Misty for the Cascade Badge. I beat Team Rocket and still don't return the stolen item before heading to Route 5 to catch Meowth and enter the Underground Path. Here, this girl is willing to trade her Nidoran male for my Nidoran female, so I can get it without the 1% encounter rate. I made my way to Vermilion, where on the SSN I evolved Bellsprout into Weepinbell, then killed Blue's Raticate before getting cut. Here's the thing. This game is a literal baby bitch beginner easy game, but I wanted to make it a baby bitch beginner easier game. So I started Firered and got to the point where I could trade a Bulbasaur over to LeafGreen and get an Alakazam. I beat the Lightning American Surge and got the Thunder Badge. This guy gave me his rod, then I fished a fish and took this guy's voucher. I went back and got a bike and caught a second Abra, then traded a Spearow for Farfetch'd to Vermilion. On Route 11, I caught Drowsy, then in Diglett Tunnel, gee, I wonder who I caught. Dugtrio is a rare encounter here, and not only that, but it's a really high level. The thing that makes it most annoying, however, is that half the Diglett have Arena Trap, meaning I can't just run from every encounter. Finally, I found a Dugtrio, and I killed it. Eventually, I came up with a new strat, Repel Manips. Because my Pokemon outleveled the Diglett, but not the Dugtrio, I can use Repel and force only Dugtrio to appear. With this, I caught Dugtrio. During the hunt, I went to the other end of Route 2 to trade Abra from Mr. Mime, got flashed by this guy, and went up to Pewter to get the old Amber. I made my way to Rock Tunnel, in which I caught Machop, Onix, then made my way to Lavender Town. You guys ready to see all we do here? Yeah, nothing. On Route 8, I get Vulpix, then head over to Celadon City to just take this guy's Eevee. I go to the route west of here real quick for Doduo and to get Fly. I talk to this lady to become British, then talk to this guy to unlock underage gambling. Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it. I'll just fight some boneheads instead. After getting the Sylph Scope, I bought a Leaf Stone and used it on Weepinbell to get Victory Bell. In the gym, Doduo evolved into Dodrio, then I beat Erica for the Rainbow Badge. I went back over to Lavender and beat up a guy in a graveyard. I caught Ghastly and Cubone before beating Team Rocket to rescue Mr. Fuji, then getting the Pokeflute and catching Haunter in the Pokemon Tower because I forgot to before. On the way to Fuchsia, Wartortle evolved into Blastoise, I caught Snorlax, got the Super Rod, fished Krabby and Gyarados, then caught Venonat. On Route 14, I found a Pidgeotto who I guess was terrified of my Dodrio, then caught Ditto. I made my way to Fuchsia only to immediately leave and go down Cycling Road for Raticate, and on Route 18 I got Fearow. I entered the Poison Gym filled with no Poison types and beat Koga for the Soul Badge. Alright fellas, time for the best part of any Pokemon game, the Safari Zone. The Safari Zone in this game is exactly the same as it was in Gen 1. You got the bait and rocks to throw at poor defenseless animals, and of course, you can't use any Pokemon, and to make matters even worse, the Pokemon can also flee. I caught Nidorino, Execute, Rhyhorn, Parasect, Pinsir, Kangaskhan, Venomoth, Chansey, and Tauros before getting the Gold Teeth and the HM for Surf. To finish up the Safari Zone, I fished up a Seaking and Goldeen, then I found a Dragonair, where I thought I could implement a new strategy. As it turns out, bait isn't entirely useless. When you use bait, it lowers the catch rate of the opposing Pokemon, but there's also a limit on how far it can be pushed down. As a result, all the rare Pokemon with a catch rate of 45 don't get harder to catch, and Chansey even becomes easier to catch. This also allows you to lower their flee rate down to just 10% per turn. However, the first turn is unaffected because the game does the flee check before you make your choice. I failed to catch the Dragonair, but I did catch Slowpoke and Dratini, and I just decided to evolve the Dratini later instead of looking for the 1% Dragonair. I took a suggestion from chat to dump the Dratini in the daycare so it could gain experience as we go about the rest of the game. I felt this was sound advice, so I did it. I hope I don't forget that I did this later. Back over in Fuchsia, I got a good rod from this guy, then fished up a Poliwag before giving this old guy some teeth, then gave the guard some tea to gain access to Saffron. I beat up every little pea-brain motherfucker in Sylph, including Blue over here, and took this guy's Lapras for myself. I beat up Giovanni again as well and got gifted the Master Ball. Well, in Gen 1, I tossed the Master Ball for comedic effect, and there's no roamers for the Kanto Dex, so I'll just remake the bit. Aren't I hilarious? I go over to the fighting dojo to fight the dojo and get Hitmonlee. Eventually, I was also able to find my way to Sabrina through the warp tiles and get the Marsh Badge. Just south of Fuchsia on Route 19, I fished up a Tentacool, Horsey, and Kingler, then made my way to the Seafoam Islands. In Seafoam Islands, I caught Slowbro, Golbat, Dewgong, Seal, then went to the end to catch Articuno. I made my way to Cinnabar and decided to explore an abandoned building. Here I caught Muck, Grimer, Coughing, then got the secret key and left. I revived my fossils for Ammonite and Aerodactyl, then take on Blaine to get the Volcano badge. Upon leaving the gym, Bill asked me to go to an island with him and his friend. I think I've heard of this before. I decline, we'll get back to this later. Just south of Pallet, I caught Tangela, then went east of Cerulean towards Route 10, catching the Voltorb I missed, then went to the power plant just below for Magneton, Magnemite, Electrode, and Zapdos at the end. After that, it was just a quick trip to Viridian to beat Giovanni one final time for the Earth badge. I beat up Blue once again and caught 2 Poliwhirl and a Primeape on my way to Victory Road. In Victory Road, I caught Sandslash, Marowak, and Machoke before making it out to the Indigo Plateau. In the original games, Moltres was found here, but they moved its location elsewhere, so we'll deal with it later. Now we have reached the Elite Four, but my team kinda sucks. We are not ready to take on the Elite Four. There we go. The Elite Four in this game are pretty easy, except for Lorelei, who's a bitch, so I beat them in Blue to enter the Hall of Fame and beat the game with 93 Pokemon in the Pokedex, only 57 left to go. The first thing I did upon becoming the strongest trainer at the ripe old age of 10 is buy some money. Porygon costs 9,999 coins in the game corner in Fire Red, but for some reason, they lowered it in Leaf Green to 6,500. As a result of that, plus selling items and TMs I don't need, I had enough money to just buy myself a Porygon. I then went to Cerulean to trade a perfectly good Poliwhirl for an ugly stinky Jinx, then went over to Route 18 to trade a Slowbro for Lickitung. If you're playing Fire Red, you would have to trade a Golduck instead. I went to the Route 15 gate and talked to Oak's Aid for the experience share, then I caught Pidgeotto as I missed it before. With that, we have just 2 more sets of Pokemon left that we could get in this game, the Level Evolutions and Sevi Island Pokemon. Here's the thing, if I go to the Sevi Islands and start the quest there, I will be completely locked out of doing the Elite Four. Once I complete the quest and unlock it again, it won't be the same. Firered and LeafGreen were the first Pokemon games to have a round 2 of the Elite Four, where they have stronger teams after your first win. On one hand, this would mean more experience for me, but on the other, it means I would need to grind my main team to be able to take down the round 2 team, which I wasn't comfortable in my abilities to do. To counter this, I decided to do the level grinding first, then go to the Sevi Islands. I decided the bugs were weak enough to just grind in Victory Road, however. I evolved Metapod into Butterfree at level 10, Kakuna into Beedrill at level 10, then searched the region far and wide for every rare candy left on the ground, collecting 12 in all. From there, I grinded against the Elite Four to evolve Bulbasaur into Ivysaur at level 16, then into Venusaur at level 32, and Pidgeotto to Pidgeot at level 36. I went to the department store to buy some rocks and evolved Jigglypuff to Wigglytuff with a Moonstone, Pikachu to Raichu with a Thunderstone, Eevee into Jolteon with a Thunderstone, Vulpix to Ninetales with a Firestone, Execute to Executor with a Leaf Stone, and Poliwhirl to Poliwrath with a Water Stone, then went back to the Elite Four. Here I evolved Rhyhorn into Rhydon at level 42, Omanyte to Omastar at level 40, and would you believe me if I told you that we were already down to the final evolution line? I tried finding my Dratini in the boxes, but I completely forgot I had dumped it in a daycare, so I ended up just catching another. Dratini doesn't become Dragonite until level 55, but luckily, the game provides plenty of rare candies to reach that high. I evolved Dratini to Dragonair at level 30, however between the 12 rare candies we have, the 2 more we could get on the Sevi Islands, and the 11 we could get in Fire Red, we don't need Dragonair to level up anymore. Because of this, it is time to move over to Fire Red. I quickly speedrun my way up to getting Pokeballs so I could trade over a Charmander to LeafGreen, then I started a new game with Squirtle, picking the Dome Fossil this time and playing all the way up to beating Blaine. When I left the gym, Bill offered to take me to the Sevi Islands, and this time I took him up on the offer. I needed to fish a shelter up here, but I forgot to get the Super Rod, and the game doesn't let you leave the islands until you finish up some story stuff, so we'll come back for it. There's some story bullshit that I mashed through before going to 2 Island and catching a Gloom at Cape Brink. I then had to fight off a bunch of thugs one at a time, and I lost to the last guy, so I had to do it all over again. I biked over to Berry Forest to rescue Lostel, and now I can leave the islands, get the Super Rod, and we'll go back later to get Shelter. In the meantime, I caught Ekans on Route 4, Oddish on Route 24, Growlithe on Route 8, Hitmonchan in the Fighting Dojo in Saffron, another Eevee in Celadon, Psyduck and Golduck in the Seafoam Islands, then I went back to one island for Shelter. I caught an Electabuzz at the power plant after nearly forgetting about it, but with that, it was time to return to the Safari Zone. We need to get Scyther, who is a 4% encounter with a high flee rate and low catch rate. I did have that strategy to try and lock in any Scyther that I found, but it still had a 10% chance of fleeing every turn, and a 45% flee rate on turn 1, so not only would it often flee before I could throw a ball, the game was also low-balling my odds and having it flee after only 1 or 2 balls anyway. After about 2.5 hours of hunting, I finally caught Scyther. I scavenged the land, collecting all the rare candies I could in this game, though I did have to make a stop to beat Erica so I could use Strength for one, and in the end I collected 11 candies. I restored the Dome Fossil to Kabuto, and now it was time for the trades. Through trading, I evolved Machoka to Machamp and Haunter into Gengar. I made a quick pit stop at Cinnabar Mansion to get a Weezing because I forgot, then it blew up so I had to find another, then I went to Route 19 for Seadra, but now I was done with Fire Red. I traded them over and began grinding again in Leaf Green. When I was doing those final trades, I also dumped all the rare candies I collected in Fire Red into Dragonair, bringing it closer to Dragonite. I grinded once again against the Elite Four to evolve Charmander to Charmeleon at level 16, then to Charizard at level 36, Ekans to Arbok at level 22, and Kabuto to Kabutops at level 40. Now it was just time for some stone evolutions, in which I evolved Eevee to Vaporeon with a Water Stone, Growlithe to Arcanine with a Fire Stone, Gloom to Vileplume with a Leaf Stone, and Shelter to Cloyster with a Water Stone. With that, it was finally time to take on the Sevi Islands. I talk with Bill and Cinnabar and take a ride out to one island. Celio is having issues with the box system, and I get given a Meteorite and Tri-Pass to go to the other islands. On one island, I fished up Staryu, then went back to Kindle Road for Ponyta before getting the HM for Rock Smash. I planned to get a Pokemon out of the PC to teach Rock Smash, but I failed to consider that the whole reason Bill dragged me here was because the PC wasn't working. So that ruined my plan. Luckily, it didn't actually ruin my plan because Rock Smash isn't needed to get to the top of Mount Ember, so I went there and caught Rapidash and Magmar before climbing to the top for Moltres. I went to 2 Island and entered the game corner to find this guy distraught over his missing daughter. Up at Cape Brink, I got a rare candy, then went to 3 Island. On 3 Island, I took care of some Gooners over here, then went to Berry Forest to find Lostel. A Hypno appears, and luckily I read this one creepypasta like 7 years ago, so I knew the threat Hypno posed and contained it in my balls forever. I used a Repel Manip technique with Kabutops out front on James Bond Bridge for Persian, and did the same for Tentacruel. I evolved Nidorino into Nidoking with a Moonstone, Staryu to Starmie as a Water Stone, and then I dumped the rest of my rare candies on Dragonair to evolve it to Dragonite. Going back to Professor Oak, I got the National Dex, which allowed me to start the second half of the Sevi Island quest. Celio requested I get some cool rocks for him, and I teach Rock Smash to a Pokemon. I go over to Mount Ember and beat some guys up, and then take the Pokemon Ruby video game for the Game Boy Advance in the basement. I smashed some rocks until I found a big rock over here, then I handed the ruby over to Celio and went to 4 Island. On 4 Island, I breed Ditto with the most fuckable Pokemon to get another Eevee, then use a Firestone to get Flareon. Once that was done, I did a quick trade to evolve Graveler to Golem, and with that, we had just one more Pokemon left. If you know me, you know I like to end things off with a bang. So I went over to Cerulean Cave to catch Mewtwo. Oh, I guess we can't do that. I need to complete the Sevi Island quest first before gaining access to the cave, so I helped Lorelei in Icefall Cave, get the Sapphire in Dotted Hole, have it stolen from me, break into Team Rocket's warehouse, and beat them again before giving the Sapphire to Celio. Now I can trade with the Hoenn games. I'm looking forward to not doing that right now. Finally, I go over to Cerulean Cave and reach a point where I need to leave to get Rock Smash, but then I get to the very end and find Mewtwo. I prepared myself for an intense and climactic battle, but I caught it in 2 Ultra Balls. Of course, we're still missing Mew, but after a quick little trip to PK Hex, I managed to put in an event Mew, and now we officially have all 151 Pokemon in the Kanto Pokedex. I spoke with the game director in Celadon Condominiums, and in 41 hours, 49 minutes, and 40 seconds, I have officially completed the Kanto Pokedex. So, is this game more difficult to complete the Pokedex in? While it did take me less time to complete the dex here, I'd still say overall it is slightly more difficult. For the most part, the Pokedex is the same, which makes sense given it's a remake of the game, but it adds the extra condition of going through the Sevi Island quest. It overall adds just a little bit extra to what is needed to be done in order to complete the Pokedex. However, if you played Pokemon Yellow, you were required to play 3 games to complete the Pokedex, whereas you don't in Firered and LeafGreen. Because I believe playing another game is worse than a new side area, I'd say Firered and LeafGreen's Pokedex is harder than Red and Blue, but easier than Yellow. However, I'd also say that if you're going to do one, just do Firered and LeafGreen. They're just better games. With that, the Pokedex is done, and we can return to some unfinished business. We still have the National Dex and Emerald to complete, a task some may consider as the hardest Pokedex in the series. Let's take on that challenge and see if it truly is all that it's made up to be.